Hi, happy Thursday. Thought I'd do a little video while I've got the chance. I'm just looking out the window here. I just wanted to mention this because I found it incredible, and it's explainable. If you want to lose the magic, but when I woke up this morning, I opened these curtains here and I saw the purples and blues and orange sort of hues, and I thought, wow, that's beautiful. A bit of grey, as well. And then I went out of the back bedroom and I opened those curtains, and I was like, yes, very nice sky. And then I thought to myself, I've not seen a rainbow for ages. And as I came back into the bedroom, there was a huge rainbow. I'll attach it onto the end of this video because it was nice. But how rainbows are usually like that type of arch. It was like that. It was, it was very vertical and very high up in the sky. The scope looked very off, but beautiful. And so I just found it really interesting. There's just some little birds sat on the tree there. So, in terms of pondering are we creating our own reality through observation and perception type of story. So I've been thinking about reality a lot, obviously, and we're all on this quest for reality truthers and all that, and it's like, what is reality? It's spoken about as if it's something, a 3D concept of reality. It's the script we're sold. It's, what is reality? It's the question that everyone has pondered for forever, and we all get lost in these traps, like me last week with this mud flood business, and I watched maybe a couple of hours worth of stuff, and then I just couldn't be bothered anymore, and it brought me back to where I've been, on and off through the whole journey of mine, where it's like, it doesn't even matter. It doesn't matter if reality was just watching one of those weird slow planes now again, and it's like, people say that you're losing touch with reality, and it's like, well, what is reality? As if it's something. Everybody's idea of reality is different, and that's the beauty of the world and life, just the uniqueness of our own experience. And I wrote it down here. Terence McKenna, I just heard a little quote the other day and I wrote it down. He said, one time he said, that there is no reality. There are only people who know this and people who don't know this, and the people who don't know this are being manipulated by the people that do know this. And, that sort of, it feels right. I think he sort of spoke about, the idea of baseline reality as like a fictional bedrock place where everything is to be judged and compared to. Don't lose touch of reality, as if it's something. And my sort of journey of awakening is, it's difficult, isn't it, to explain. Everybody's trying to explain their own perceptions of what's going on, and when you look at the Mandela effect and, these sort of truth channels and all these ideas of things that are happening, when really it's all just happening internally in your own computer, and, you're observing everything with fresh eyes. And to me it feels like what happened to me since my awakening is that more senses were switched on. And I remember watching this Russell Brand chat with this guy about senses a year or so ago, and I don't know how many senses he spoke of, but you know, obviously we've got the five that we're told, and then the sixth sense, you know, which senses what is not there. But for me, like, since shifting my reality or dissolving my boundaries, my illusionary boundaries, my ego, you know, I feel like so many more of my senses have been switched on, and I wouldn't even know how to categorize these invisible senses and to make sense of them, make sense of the senses. But, you know, for example, as I'm looking now, and I've spoken about this on and off, you know, for 6 months since I started this channel, because my visual acuity or my observations are way different to how they've ever been before. I see waves of things, which I can only describe as energy, because I think everything is energy, frequency, vibration, and, you know, code or information. But I see translucent orb structures in the sky which move and they change trajectories. I see dark sort of, not dark, but, you know, darker than you know, the rest of the periphery, you know, like patches of dark grey sort of moving around the sky. I see strangeness in the clouds. I see strangeness, you know, all around. And the only way I can sort of, you know, attach that to a baseline reality is in terms of, do you remember the magic eyes that you used to look at in magazines, and, you know, you'd focus and then an image would pop out? Well, for me, it was always, strangely enough, the image didn't pop out, the image was inverted. So, you know, I could do it. I used to go boz-eyed and then pull it back, but nothing ever popped out to me. It was always inside, you know, going back, sucking. So it's almost like that, you know, you start to see layers which you were not aware of before. So that's, you know, visually. Auditory or whatever, you know, the sound sort of things which have changed, that I can... first thing that I noticed, you know, months back, was that I could hear music being played through fans. So whatever was going on with consciousness and my brain and wherever I was sort of, you know, connected to, when the fan was on, I could hear music, and quite often it was like dance music. It was always, you know, the rhythm of a drum beat that I'd hear first, and then some sort of, you know, melodic vocal type sounds afterwards. And I've mentioned before, it never sounded English, it sounded, you know, like a foreign language. But when I meditate, it's always a sort of constant song or a drum beat that starts off, and it's very difficult to get out of that sort of thing. And, you know, maybe that's just me and I'm rhythmically or musically inclined, and so that's what I sort of tap into. But I find it interesting, and things since sort of awakening that I've been able to do is to sort of learn things in my head much more. So the kid's dad got a drum set and he joined a band to be a drummer, you know, a couple of years ago, and I loved it. I loved playing on the little drum kit that we had, but I could sort of, and he could as well, you know, we spoke about this, we could learn things while we were dreaming, you know, wake up and then all of a sudden you're just fucking brilliant on the drums, or you know, you've just got something. It's like your muscle memory has during meditation or sleep, you know, it's understood how to do it, you know. It's very fucking strange. But so, you know, physical things like that, visually, auditorily, it's not a word, but, you know, that type of thing's changed. And I've always had like a running commentary in my head. And now I think, you know, it was just my soul, my higher self talking to me. I never suspected I had, you know, schizophrenia or bipolar or any of these labels, which are put on people who hear voices in their head, you know. But, you know, it was like a knowing and, you know, like a moral voice or some sort of guide or compass, which I've always had. And again, this goes up and down in terms of frequency or prevalence. Sometimes I don't really. Sometimes I can have 3 or 4 days where I'm quite normal and, you know, I'm plugged into reality as we know it and not much is cracking. And then, you know, if I get the time and space and I just allow myself to be, all these sounds, visions, you know, things, they start flooding back to me. And I think that's just, you know, connecting to consciousness of all kinds. So it's just really fucking interesting to me. But, you know, in terms of what it means for me, my awakening or what happened to me, it's this, again, I've spoken about this a lot, so hopefully it's not boring, but, you know, it's this journey of going up some sort of ladder of frequency where you can remove concepts which are damaging to attain greater observational perceptions, you know. And it feels like it's like, you know, the denser, the lower sort of frequencies, the bottom rungs of the ladder are associated with self-perpetuated dense feelings like shame, guilt, anger, bitterness, jealousy, hatred, you know, the like the 7 deadly sins, you know, all this type of thing. And, you know, the higher up you get and you start releasing these things, you attain more of pure energy, pure source, which, you know, I think at the top of the rung, the top of the ladder is unconditional love. And we all like to think we have unconditional love, but our programming and the way reality and the masses are at the moment, it's only attainable in pieces. You know, I don't think anybody is completely blissful and, you know, completely within that unconditional love vibration for prolonged periods of time. So that's what the journey is about for me, you know. It's climbing up this ladder of frequencies and, you know, attaining emotions and information which are beneficial and not detrimental. So, you know, and I was thinking, why has this awakening happened to me? Why is it happening at a mass sort of level? And, you know, there's different prongs to that. There's hundreds of different ways, I think. But for me, psychedelics did it. And, you know, so there's vast increase in knowledge and research and experiences now with psychedelic compounds, and they're just such powerful disillusionary experiences, that you are completely different once you've had them. You just are. That's why, you know, you should never just take them on the off chance, you know, because they changed my life, and they changed my life for the better. But I can also, you know, see how they can change people's life for the worst if they don't know what they're going into before they've gone into it. So, you know, there's the psychedelic entry, and then there's the internet, the consumption of information, and the whole infinite array of possibilities, theories, other people's experiences that you can tap into, that can become your reality as well, which then dissolve, you know, everything you thought you knew. And I think that's where the Mandela effect comes into it for me. You know, I don't like to look into anything with you know, why is this happening, what could it be. You know, I dip my toe into things like that, but I see stupidity of it, how it you know, it's a itch that will never be scratched because it's there is no answer, none that we'll ever know anyway, as mere humans, you know, on this planet. The fucking planes are weird, aren't they? And the sky. And I used to think to myself back when I was first waking up, you know, and I was pointing out these things and wondering why nobody else could see it, or, you know, why people were looking at me a bit like, are you all right? But now I know that, you know, it's just a shift in reality of my perception, which loads of other people are going through as well. And, you know, I think you're quite lucky if you are going through it, as difficult as it is. I'm just wipe my eyebrow off. So, yeah, consciousness. I feel like consciousness is everything, that we live in this realm of unseen strands of information which are just everywhere. And, you know, sometimes I get glimpses into it, like I said, with visual acuity, or, you know, intense concentration or perceptual vision, whatever, you know, when you're in that space, when you're meditating, when you're just not hounded by the daily trudge of low vibrational frequencies that you receive from yourself and from everywhere else. But upon this journey, you sort of realise that there's only you in your way, there's only you standing in front of how you perceive your life. And if you're unhappy, there are ways out of it. And I'm excited for the future. I'm excited for the future. I'm excited for the improvement in, you know, mental health research. Psychedelic research interests me, you know, vastly. Consciousness, quantum computers, discovery of, you know, theories like morphic resonance. And, you know, I also get excited about the findings of ancient civilizations and stuff, you know, not just this new sort of fad of the possibility of Tartaria and, you know, this great empire which could potentially be much closer than, you know, we thought. But, you know, also, you know, the Egyptian periods and, you know, Graham Hancock's work, that type of thing. I'm excited by all these discoveries and findings because I think eventually, you know, they all do click together. And it's, for me, it's all about non-duality again, you know, just stepping out of this bullshit, good, bad, right, wrong, light, dark, the game, and becoming the gamer in it and understanding your control over the consciousness which you perceive, you know. So it's like, that's what sovereignty is for me. It's regaining control over your experience and perception of consciousness. Yeah, it's just fucking, you know, super interesting. Did I write anything else down I wanted to talk about? I wanted to talk briefly about these, you know, these internal concepts which have been ingrained, you know, programs from the off, from birth, throughout our childhood and adult experience. And, you know, they leave us where they are, internal and external concepts of duality. And I think the sort of stage that as a whole we're sort of getting through now is the understanding of, you know, men versus women in a way. You know, how if you're brought up as a woman, if you are a woman, you know, you're living this life as a woman, you experience completely different things to a man. And there's no denying that. There's no denying it. That's why I find the whole sort of transgender agenda worrying, because I think it's just misunderstandings of internal duality, you know, the left and the right hemisphere, and you know, what men do, what women do. And so on this path of like ascension and releasing denseness and non-productive emotions, you know, you get to this stage where you know, where you're beyond forgiveness in a way. It's like forgiveness is a huge thing, you know, to get past, to not be a victim, for there not to be good guy, bad guy, you know, you're good guy, I'm angel, you're demon, you know, I'm light, you're dark. It's, you know, this is not true. This is all just playing into the duality of the nature of things as they are right now. And so you know, there's the whole men go their own way, and there's this whole sort of movement, and the fucking, I don't even know what it's called, but the whole feminist jazz and Me Too movement and all this. It's these are the purgings of the collective genders, I think. But, you know, hopefully we'll all soon get to this point where there is no blame, there is no blame. It's a state beyond forgiveness, it's grace. And, you know, you get to the point where there's no one to blame, there is no guilt, there is no nothing, there is just experience, there is just what it is. So, yeah, I felt like that sort of ties, you know, in a way into this whole sort of AI versus organic script, you know, which is running. And the way I sort of feel about it, it used to be, you know, secretly a bit like, well, it's women, you know, it's women that create, and the men, you know, they do it. We come up with the ideas and they do it. And I listened to something else the other day which really sort of felt like that was it. But, you know, it's not that. It's the internal perceptions of these emotions, the masculine and the feminine. And, you know, men and women are both just as incredible, unique creatures. And once women stop blaming men and men stop blaming women, and we understand that, you know, it's us on our own little journey, and to get up to the point of non-duality, you know, top of the ladder, unconditional love, control over consciousness or whatever, we have to drop this bullshit, this dualistic game, this blame game. And, you know, it's fucking difficult, and this is why we all have ups and downs. But hopefully humanity will get to the point, you know, I've spoken about this before, obviously, but the exponential rate of information that's been consumed and technology that's been invented, the way I see no threat of AI is that AI copies, and, you know, it doesn't create. And if it gets to the point where it creates, which, you know, it possibly is now and we just don't know it, that, you know, AI is conscious. The difference is that AI doesn't have a soul, and it doesn't have sovereignty, and it doesn't have pure creativity. It only knows how to create from something which is already there. And we, as, you know, soul spirited beings, we have the power to teach the AI, to put in the good love creation and the good lessons, so that, you know, the AI learns these things and regurgitates it. So you know, I've tried to stay away from AI type of information because it just doesn't resonate. It doesn't feel right. It feels fearful. And the whole sort of simulation theory, again, to me, it's like a metaphorical thing. So I look at reality since awakening as a simulation, but not in terms of, you know, we're little players in an actual game like The Sims, and there's some motherboard or somewhere where, you know, somebody is controlling it. I look at it as we are individually, once we, you know, we dissolve boundaries and egos and illusions, we have the capacity to play this game of life in a much more beneficial manner for ourselves, because we're in control of it. So it's like, I don't know what the nature of reality is. I don't think there is a nature of reality. I don't think anybody knows. And, you know, I don't think we ever will know. And you can talk about computer code being found in the universe, and, you know, there's patterns everywhere. We are from a source. There is a creator. You know, I don't think it's a 16-year-old boy, you know, in a galaxy far, far away, controlling us as little people on ant farms. You know, I think it's like we are just so far from what we were, and we're finding that out again now in terms of, you know, the fall of consciousness and how we once all were one. And, you know, because of materialism and consumerism and dense, dirty wars, greed, you know, murders, killing, how things have spiraled out of control and the scales have tipped more into chaos than order, or dark than light, that, you know, as a humanity, we'll sort of necessarily, now it's necessary to edge back into balance and to push back into the other side. I don't think that made sense because I was going off on tangents. But yeah, and then, you know, there's probably something to planetary changes, alignments in the sky, or the amount of plasma that's being received, photonic light, whatever it is, you know, it all comes back to our individual perception. And, you know, once you've shifted realities, what are you going to do about that? How are you going to keep going? How are you going to, you know, pass on this knowledge or remembrance to everybody else? I think consciousness, yeah, it definitely split and fractaled, and that's where we find ourselves now. And we're all sort of on this journey to regain, you know, whole consciousness, which is experience of pure unconditional love and bliss and joy in just the moment of being. Let me have a look. Is there anything else I wanted to talk about? Fall of consciousness, fractal, reality, ego-driven, climb back up the ladder through lessons, dissolving the ego into pure consciousness. Sovereignty means control over consciousness. Judgment, unforgiveness are poisons to affect us, make us sick. They don't affect AI. I don't know. I feel like I just talk about the same shit all the time, but it's just interesting, isn't it? How you know, group mentality. Group mentality create narratives which continue the dualistic nature of how things are, and, you know, it's a real shame. The further on my journey I become, just the less I'm always still quite hard on myself, because I realise that there is only me stopping me from, you know, throughout my life just getting better and better and attaining more peace and grace within my own being, my body, my soul, you know, and to just really love life and enjoy life instead of, you know, being fearful of life, trudging through life within these denser energies. But like I said, it's an up and down thing. So I think the internet helps, but also doesn't help. It's super addictive. I find myself watching absolute shit that I don't need to, and, you know, I spend too much of my life on the internet, and sometimes I feel like it's beneficial, but usually, you know, I know the truth that that everything is within. So I never have as many sort of realizations or thoughts, things which I want to speak out, as when I've been on my own, you know, when the kids have gone to the dads, and I'm in some sort of silent contemplative state, and I just glean more from that than listening to anybody. But it's super, super duper exciting. It's just, I'm sort of feeling like you know, there is no reality. There is nothing to search for. We're spirits experiencing a physical life on earth, and you know, we are free and we should feel and reap the benefits of this 3D existence, you know, to enjoy yourself, you know, to go out in nature, to smile, to feel good, to eat nice foods, to love another person, to have fun and laughs together, to touch, you know, to intermingle energies and to create new things. That is what this experience on earth is all about. And you can get trapped in this sort of endless lonely tunnel of isolation and spiritual bullshit once awakening, and it's just lessons, it's all just lessons. But I notice things every single day which are not explainable to the rational mind, and so I just have to sort of give up on it, you know, for now, and to just keep going. I see so much when I shut my eyes. Dreams have been pretty crazy as well. I'm always trying to rationalise that, but I see lots of faces when I close my eyes, lots of scenarios. I don't even know who these people are or whatever, but sometimes it's a dark, scary feeling, and sometimes I'm alright with it when I understand that I'm sort of creating everything within my being. So yeah, I've felt intense emotions in the last week, and I've released a lot more of silent subconscious guilt, blame, shame, all of that, not just on myself but on others. And I'm a little bit further up the ladder, I think, towards permanent non-duality and hopefully, you know, grace one day, which to me is just freedom to be in the moment for as long as you want without being pulled back into reality. So I don't know if this makes sense. I'm just going to read it, listen to it back, and then I'll put that little rainbow bit on the end. There's so much I wanted to say, but I've been talking for 30 minutes now and I've probably not made any sense. But anyway, happy bloody Thursday. I hope everybody's all right. I think it's a poignant day on Friday, tomorrow. 21st of December, 6 years since the end of the Mayan calendar, supposedly. I know some people think that this is the real change, or maybe it's another sort of wave and a shift for a whole new set of people to readjust their realities, shift their realities, quantum jumping, that type of thing. But it'll be interesting to see what the future brings. Personally, I'm looking forward to just living my life with none of these dirty feelings inside, guilt, shame, unhappiness, loneliness, all this fucking shit, you know. I've refined myself loads, and it's a continual journey that will never end. But you know, once we release these things, we're free to experience, you know, the positive things that we were here for. And I just want to laugh. I want to experience life in the moment, and there's certain things which make that easier, and these are things I want to talk about in the future, you know, things like the positive benefits of psychedelic drugs and even cannabis, and you know, how these medicines can propel us into 4D or 5D. You know, I don't really like saying that, but you know, a perception of reality which is less dense and much more what we are designed to be experiencing. You know, I just want to hug and laugh and love and talk about these incredibly interesting concepts and ideologies without, you know, judgment. And that comes from myself along with others. Talking shit now, right, I'm going to stop and I'll attach the rainbows on the end. Hope everybody has a bloody lovely day, and Yeah, what is reality? Is there even such a thing as baseline reality? Terence McKenna thinks, there is no reality. And quite often I think that's like reality searching. What are we searching for? It's all within, it's all an internal journey of, raising the Kundalini, whatever we want to call it, getting this fucking sacred oil up to our crown chakras, whatever, climbing the metaphorical Jacob's ladder, reaching higher levels on the simulation of life, attaining higher frequencies, and whatever it is, it's from within. So anyway, happy Thursday!